"You haven't earned your place here," my daughter's fiancé said on Thanksgiving, so I canceled. I was standing at the kitchen sink at 6 in the morning on Thanksgiving. The coffee maker was gurgling and the house was still dark, except for the little light above the stove. My hands were in soapy water washing the good china, the plates my mother gave me 30 years ago, the ones with the little gold leaves around the edge. I had not used them since my wife Janice and I celebrated our 25th anniversary. That was a different life, a different table, a different man standing at this sink. My daughter Sarah was coming home for Thanksgiving. She lived 3 hours away in Richmond with her fiancé Derek. They had been engaged for 14 months. I had met Derek exactly 4 times. Each time he shook my hand like I was a client at a bank, not like a future son-in-law, like a transaction. I told myself it was just nerves. I told myself he was just quiet. I told myself a lot of things back then because I wanted my little girl to be happy. Janice was still asleep upstairs. We had not slept in the same bed for almost 2 years. She had moved into the guest room after her sister died. That was her reason anyway. She said she could not sleep with my snoring. She said she needed her space to grieve. I believed her because I was a fool. A 68-year-old fool who had spent 43 years believing every word that woman said.
I dried the gold leaf plates one by one with a flour sack towel. I set them on the counter in a neat stack. The turkey was brining in a bucket in the garage. The pies were cooling on the stove. Pumpkin and pecan. Sarah's favorites since she was a little girl with pigtails and a missing front tooth. I had made them from scratch last night, the same recipe my grandmother used. The crusts were a little uneven because my hands shake now, just a little. The doctor says it is nothing serious, just age, just time, just the slow crumbling of a body that worked too hard for too long. I heard Janice moving around upstairs. The floorboards creaked in the hallway. She was walking from the guest room to the bathroom. I had stopped listening for her footsteps a long time ago. There was a time when I would wake up just to hear her breathe. Now I woke up to the silence of a house that felt like a museum of things we used to be. Sarah texted me at 7:15. She said they would be here by 11. She said Derek was excited to see the house. That word, excited, sat wrong in my stomach. Derek had never been excited about anything related to me. He looked at my house like he was appraising it. My house, the one I bought in 1998 with a down payment for my father's life insurance. The one where I painted every room, replaced every window, fixed every leak, mowed that lawn every Saturday for 26 years. That house was my blood and my back and my knees that ache when it rains.
I went out to the garage to check the turkey. The brine smelled like rosemary and salt. I lifted the bucket and carried it to the sink. The garage door was half open. I could see my neighbor Pete backing out of his driveway with his 2 kids in the back seat. He waved. I waved back. Pete was a good guy. He borrowed my ladder 3 weeks ago and returned it the next day with a 6-pack of beer. That was the kind of man I understood. Simple, honest, the kind who said what he meant and meant what he said. By 10 o'clock, the table was set. The silverware was polished. The candles were in place. I had put out the good tablecloth, the white one with the embroidery that Janice's aunt had made for our wedding. It had a small wine stain near the edge from the night Sarah announced she was going to college. I had cried that night. Not because she was leaving, because I was proud. So proud it hurt. My daughter was the first person in my family to go to a 4-year university. I worked double shifts at the warehouse for 15 years to pay for it. I came home with grease under my fingernails and a smell that would not wash off. But she went to school. She got her degree. She met Derek in her last semester. He was a financial advisor. He wore suits that cost more than my first car. They pulled into the driveway at 10:53. I know the time because I looked at my watch. An old habit from the warehouse. Watching the clock, watching the minutes disappear. I went to the front door and opened it before they could knock. Sarah was wearing a long coat and a smile that did not reach her eyes. She had been looking at me like that for about a year now, like she was checking on something fragile, something that might break. "Daddy," she said, and hugged me. She felt thin, thinner than last time. I held her too long, probably. I always did. Then Derek stepped out from behind the car. He was wearing a wool coat and leather gloves. In November, in Virginia. He took off the gloves and shook my hand. His grip was firm but cold, like he was practicing for something.
like he was meeting a stranger. "Frank," he said. He never called me Frank. He never called me anything but hey or nothing at all. Frank was new. Frank was a name you used for a man you were about to fire. Come in, I said. "The cold is getting into my bones." Sarah carried a casserole dish into the kitchen. Derek carried a bottle of wine, a red I had never heard of. He set it on the counter next to my pies. He looked at the pies like he was doing math. Then he looked at the china, the gold leaf plates. He picked one up and held it to the light. "Antique," he said. "Family heirloom," I said. "My mother's." He set it down carefully, but carefully like he was handling evidence, not like he was handling something precious. There is a difference. A man who respects your past touches things different than a man who is cataloging your possessions. Janice came downstairs around 11:30. She had put on makeup. That was the first red flag I noticed, but did not register. She almost never wore makeup anymore, not around the house, not when we went to the grocery store, not when we visited her sister's grave. But today, she had on lipstick and eyeshadow and a nice sweater. The one I gave her for Christmas 3 years ago, the blue one. She looked younger. She looked like a woman going on a date, not like a woman cooking Thanksgiving dinner with her husband. She hugged Sarah and kissed Derek on the cheek. That was the second red flag. She had never kissed Derek before, not that I had seen. She barely touched him. But today she held his arm and laughed at something he said and touched his chest with her palm, like a mother-in-law, like a normal family. Except we were not a normal family. We had not been normal for a long time. I went back to the kitchen to check the turkey. The bird was golden brown, perfect. I had been cooking Thanksgiving dinner for 30 years. Janice used to do it. Then she stopped about 10 years ago, said it was too much work, said her hands hurt, so I took over. I learned to make the gravy, the stuffing, the cranberry sauce from scratch because Sarah did not like the canned kind. I learned to time everything so it came to the table hot at the same moment. That was my job. That was my role. The cook, the provider, the man in the kitchen while everyone else sat in the living room and laughed. I heard Derek on the phone in the hallway.
His voice was low, but not low enough. I was basting the turkey. The oven door was open. The fan was on. But I heard him say the word probate. Then he said the word deed. Then he said the words waiting for the old man to sign. The old man. That was me. I stood there with the baster in my hand and the heat from the oven on my face. The turkey was leaking juice into the pan. The smell of rosemary filled the kitchen. I told myself I misheard. I told myself he was talking about work. He was a financial advisor. Probate was a work word. Deeds were work words. Old man could be anyone, a client, a customer, not me. But my hands were shaking, not the regular shake, something deeper. I finished basting the turkey and closed the oven. I wiped my hands on my apron. The apron Sarah made me in 3rd grade. It said World's Best Dad in puffy paint. The letters were cracked and faded. I had worn that apron every Thanksgiving for 25 years. I walked to the living room. Sarah and Janice were on the couch, looking at something on Sarah's phone. Derek was in the hallway with his back to me. He was still on the phone. He heard my footsteps and turned around fast. Too fast. His eyes went wide for a second. Then he smiled. That smile. The one that did not touch anything real. "Hey, Frank," he said. "Just taking a work call? You know how it is." I nodded. I did not smile back. "Lunch is at 1, I said. "The turkey needs another hour." "Perfect," he said. "Perfect." Sarah looked up from her phone.
She smiled at me. That same smile, the one that did not reach her eyes. I had been seeing that smile for a year and pretending it was just stress, just wedding planning, just the normal distance between a father and his grown daughter. But now I saw something else. I saw calculation. I saw patience. I saw a woman who was waiting for something. I went back to the kitchen and closed the door, not all the way, just enough to give myself a second. I leaned against the counter and looked out the window above the sink. The backyard was brown and dead. The oak tree where Sarah used to swing was bare. The bird feeder was empty. I had forgotten to fill it for 2 weeks. That was not like me. I was a man who filled the bird feeder. I was a man who kept things running. I was a man who showed up. That was who I had been my whole life. Show up, work hard, take care of your people. That was the code. My father's code, his father's code. You provide, you protect. You do not complain. You do not ask for thanks. You just keep going until you cannot go anymore. I thought about the probate call, the deed, the old man. I thought about the way Derek looked at my house, the way he held my mother's china, the way he shook my hand like he was already calculating what my hand was worth. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself to focus on the turkey. But something was crawling under my skin, something cold. The next hour passed in a blur. I made the gravy. I mashed the potatoes. I heated the rolls. I opened the cranberry sauce and sliced it into perfect rounds the way Sarah liked. I moved through the kitchen like a machine, but my mind was somewhere else. It was going back through every conversation, every visit, every phone call, looking for the cracks I had missed. Janice came into the kitchen at 12:30. She was holding a glass of wine, the red wine Derek brought. She looked around at the countertops covered with food, the turkey resting on the cutting board, the gravy boat, the butter dish. She looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. "You did all this," she said. It was not a question, it was an observation, like she was noting a fact for later. "It's Thanksgiving," I said. "Someone has to cook." She took a sip of wine. She looked at the gold leaf plates stacked on the sideboard. Those plates used to mean something to her. She used to polish them with a soft cloth and tell me the story of her mother and the china cabinet, and the Christmas she dropped a plate and cried for 3 hours. Now she looked at them like they were just dishes. "Derek wants to talk to you after dinner," she said. "About what?" I asked. She shrugged. "Just talk. About the future." The future. That word hung in the air between us. Janice and I had not talked about the future in years. We had not talked about anything real. We had drifted into a marriage of convenience. Two people sharing a house, sharing a last name, sharing a history but not a present.
I thought it was just age, just the natural cooling of a long marriage. I thought we were just tired. I was wrong. Dinner was at 1 o'clock exactly. We sat at the table, the four of us, the good china, the white tablecloth, the candles flickering in the middle. It looked like a Norman Rockwell painting, but the air was thick. There was something wrong, something I could not name. Sarah said grace. She had never done that before. Janice was not religious. I was not religious. But Sarah bowed her head and thanked God for family and for health and for the food on the table. When she said the word family, she looked at Derek, not at me, not at her mother, at Derek. We ate. The turkey was good, the best I had ever made. The gravy was smooth, the potatoes were creamy, but I could barely taste any of it. I watched them, Derek cutting his turkey with surgical precision, Janice drinking wine, Sarah picking at her food like she was nervous. Derek started talking about the housing market, about equity, about interest rates. He said the word asset 11 times, I counted. He said the word estate 4 times. He said the word transfer 3 times. And every time he said one of those words, he looked at me, a quick glance, a flash of calculation. I put my fork down. "What do you do exactly?" I asked Derek. "I mean really do, day to day." He smiled, the fake smile. "I help people plan for retirement," he said. "I help them protect what they have built. I help them pass it on to the next generation." Next generation. There it was again. Sarah jumped in. "Daddy Derek has been so helpful. He helped Mom set up a trust." I looked at Janice. Her face went pale, then pink. She took a long drink of wine. "A trust," I said. Janice nodded. "For the house," she said. "For your retirement, to make sure everything is taken care of." Nobody told me about a trust. The silence at that table was louder than any sound I had ever heard. The candles flickered. The turkey sat half-eaten on the gold leaf plates. Sarah would not look at me. Derek was smiling. Janice was twisting her wedding ring around her finger, the ring I gave her in 1981, the ring she had not taken off for 43 years. She was twisting it like she wanted to pull it off. Derek set down his fork.
He folded his hands on the table. He looked at me like a man about to deliver news, like a doctor with bad test results. "Frank," he said, "your wife came to me 6 months ago. She was worried about your health, your memory. She wanted to make sure the house was protected. We drafted a trust. It transfers ownership to Sarah upon your death, or earlier if you become incapacitated." Incapacitated. That word hit me like a shovel to the chest. I looked at Janice. She would not meet my eyes. I looked at Sarah. She was staring at her plate. I looked at Derek. He was still smiling. "My memory is fine," I said. "My health is fine. I had a physical 3 months ago. My doctor said I was healthy for a man my age." Derek nodded. "Of course," he said. "But we want to be prepared. Your wife signed the papers last week. She has power of attorney, medical and financial." My wife signed papers? My wife? Without telling me? My wife gave power of attorney to herself over me. I stood up. My chair scraped the floor. The sound was ugly, like breaking something. "Janice," I said, "look at me." She looked up. Her eyes were wet, but not sad. Guilty. There is a difference. A sad person cries because they are hurt. A guilty person cries because they are caught. She said your name 3 times. "Frank, Frank, Frank," like she was practicing, like she was trying to find the right tone. "Daddy," Sarah said. Her voice was small, her little girl voice, the one she used when she broke a lamp or failed a test. "Daddy, we are trying to help you." "Help me?" I said. "You are trying to take my house." The word house hung in the air. My house. The house I bought with my father's death. The house I fixed with my own hands. The house where Sarah took her first steps, where Janice and I made love for the last time in 2004. Where I sat alone on Christmas morning last year because Sarah was in Richmond and Janice was at her sister's, and I was just a man with a cup of coffee and a silent house. Derek stood up. He straightened his shirt. He looked at me with something like pity, like I was a child who did not understand. "Frank," he said, "this is what is best. You are 71 years old. You cannot maintain this property forever. Sarah and I are getting married in June. We need a place to start our family. Your wife agrees. She will be moving in with us. There is a nice assisted living facility 20 minutes from our house. You will be comfortable there." Assisted living. The words did not make sense. They bounced off my brain like rubber balls. Assisted living. That was for old people. That was for people who couldn't take care of themselves. I mowed the lawn last week. I changed the oil in my truck. I fixed the leaky faucet in the guest bathroom. The guest bathroom where Janice slept now, where she had been sleeping for 2 years while she planned this. I looked at Janice, my wife, the woman I loved since I was 24 years old, the woman I held when her mother died, the woman I supported when she wanted to quit her job and go back to school, the woman I stayed married to when things got hard, when money was tight, when her sister got sick and she disappeared into hospitals and funerals and grief that lasted years. "Janice," I said, "is this true?" She nodded, a small nod, a nod that cost her nothing. "I cannot do this anymore," she said. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "I have been taking care of you for 43 years. I am tired. I want to live my life." Taking care of me? She said taking care of me. I worked 60 hours a week for 30 years. I paid for everything. The house, the cars, Sarah's college, the vacations we never took because we couldn't afford them, the medical bills when Janice had her gallbladder removed. The new roof, the new furnace, the new water heater. I paid for it all. I fixed it all. I carried it all. And she was tired of taking care of me. Derek pulled a folder out of his briefcase, a black leather folder. He opened it on the table next to the cranberry sauce. There were papers inside. Lots of papers. Legal papers with seals and signatures and notary stamps. "You need to sign these," he said. "Just a few documents. Your wife already signed her part. This just confirms the trust and the transfer of power of attorney." I looked at the papers. My hands were shaking now. The real shake. The kind that comes from deep inside, from a place where fear lives. "What if I do not sign?" I asked. Derek's smile disappeared. It was the first real expression I had seen on his face all day, and it was cold. It was the face of a man who had already won, who had already calculated every outcome, who had already decided what I was worth and what I was not. Then he said the words that broke me, the words that I will hear every day for the rest of my life. Then you have not earned your place here, Frank. This is a family, and you have not earned your place in it. Not earned my place. I built that place. I built it with my back and my hands and my blood. I built it before Derek was born, before Sarah was born, before Janice and I said I do. I built it when I was a boy, helping my father lay bricks on a job site in July. I built it when I was a young man working the night shift so I could go to trade school during the day. I built it when I was a new father, holding my daughter and promising her she would never want for anything. Not earned my place. I looked at Sarah, my daughter, my only child, the girl I taught to ride a bike, the girl I drove to the emergency room when she broke her arm falling out of that same oak tree, the girl I walked down the aisle at her first wedding, the one that ended in divorce after 2 years, the one I never criticized, the one I never blamed, the one I just held and said, "It is okay, baby, you will find love again." She was looking at Derek, not at me. She was looking at the man who is taking her father's house, who is putting her father in a home, who is telling her father he did not belong at his own Thanksgiving table. And she was looking at him like he was her savior. I looked at Janice, my wife. She was wiping her eyes with a napkin, but she was not stopping this. She was not saying a word. She had already chosen. She had chosen Derek and Sarah and a future that did not include me. I took off my apron, the one that said "World's Best Dad." I folded it carefully and set it on the table next to the turkey. Then I walked to the front door. I put on my coat, an old Carhartt, the one with the torn pocket and the coffee stain on the sleeve. I put on my boots, the ones with the worn soles that I kept meaning to replace. "Frank," Janice said, "where are you going?"
I did not answer. I opened the front door. The cold air hit my face. It felt good. It felt clean. It felt like the first honest thing I had felt all day. "Daddy," Sarah said. Her voice was cracking, but she did not get up. She did not come after me. She just sat there at my table with my mother's china and my wife and her fiancé and the papers that were going to take everything. I walked out. I closed the door behind me. I did not slam it. I just closed it, quietly, like closing a book you never want to read again. I got in my truck, the old Ford, the one with 200,000 miles and a dent in the tailgate from when I backed into the oak tree in 2009. I sat there for a long time. The engine was cold. The windows were fogging up with my breath. I watched the house, my house. The lights were on in the dining room. I could see them through the window. Janice standing, Derek sitting, Sarah crying, or not crying, I could not tell. I started the truck and drove away. I drove for an hour, 2 hours. I did not know where I was going. I ended up at a truck stop off the interstate, the kind with fluorescent lights and bad coffee, and truckers sleeping in their cabs. I parked in the back and turned off the engine. The silence was enormous. I called my brother, my older brother, the one who lives in Ohio, the one I had not spoken to in 8 months, because Janice did not like him. She said he was negative. She said he was jealous of our life. I answered the phone on the second ring.
"Tom," I said. My voice was strange, like it belonged to someone else. "Frank," he said, "you okay?" "No," I said, "I am not okay." I told him everything: the trust, the power of attorney, the assisted living, the words Derek said at the table, "not earned your place." I told him while sitting in my truck in a truck stop parking lot on Thanksgiving evening. The sun went down, the lights came on, the truckers came and went, and I sat there with the phone against my ear and my brother's voice telling me to lawyer up, to fight, to not sign anything. Tom drove down from Ohio the next day. He showed up at the truck stop with a duffel bag and a thermos of coffee and a look on his face I had not seen since our father's funeral. Determination, anger, love. We went to a lawyer on Monday, a small firm in a strip mall next to a pizza place. The lawyer was a woman named Mrs. Patricia Hall. She was 65 years old with gray hair and glasses and the kind of voice that did not waste words. She listened to everything: the trust, the power of attorney, the Thanksgiving dinner, Derek's words. She took notes on a yellow legal pad. She asked questions. She nodded a lot. Then she set down her pen. "Mr. Vance," she said, "your wife cannot grant herself power of attorney without your consent, not legally, not if you are competent. And from what I can see, you are perfectly competent, possibly more competent than anyone else in this situation." She said the papers were not worth the paper they were printed on. She said Janice and Derek had overplayed their hand. She said they counted on me being old and scared and too trusting. She said they were wrong. I hired her. I used money from an account Janice did not know about, a small account my father set up for me before he died, a few $1,000s, enough for a retainer, enough to fight. The next few weeks were a war, not a loud war, a quiet one, a war of lawyers and letters and phone calls and meetings. Janice moved out of the house the second week of December. She took her clothes and her jewelry and a box of photos. She left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter, the ring I gave her in 1981. She left it next to the toaster, like it was nothing, like 43 years was nothing. Sarah stopped taking my calls. I tried. I called her every day for 2 weeks, then every other day, then once a week. Then I stopped. Because every time I called, I heard Derek's voice in my head, "not earned your place." And every time I heard it, I realized he was right about one thing. I had not earned a place at a table that was never mine to begin with. It was a table of lies, a table of people who had been pretending to love me while they waited for me to die. Derek sent a letter, a formal letter from his office. It said that Sarah was reconsidering our relationship. It said that my behavior on Thanksgiving was aggressive and concerning. It said that they were worried about my mental state. It was a threat, a warning. A way to build a case for incompetence. Patricia laughed when she read it. She said it was amateur hour. She said no judge in Virginia would declare a man incompetent for walking out of his own Thanksgiving dinner after being told he had not earned his place. She said Derek was a bully, and bullies only understand one thing. We filed a motion, a restraining order against Derek. Not a full one, just a legal notice that he was not to contact me, not to come near my property, not to represent Janice in any legal matter involving our marriage or our assets. The motion was granted. Derek was out. Janice had to hire her own lawyer, a real one who told her the truth. The truth was not good for her. The house was marital property. I had owned it before the marriage, but we had paid off the mortgage together. She was entitled to half the equity, but she was not entitled to power of attorney. She was not entitled to a trust that transferred ownership to Sarah. She was not entitled to put me in assisted living against my will. Those things were fraud, attempted fraud, and Patricia was happy to use that word in every filing. Janice's lawyer called Patricia in January. He wanted to settle. He wanted to negotiate. He wanted to avoid a trial that would make everyone look bad. Patricia came to my house, the one I still lived in, the one I had not lost, not yet, not ever if I had anything to say about it. She sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Derek had laid out his papers, the same table where Janice had twisted her wedding ring, the same table where Sarah had bowed her head and thanked God for family. Patricia looked at me over her glasses. "Here is the deal," she said. "Your wife wants half the equity in the house, and she wants out of the marriage. She is willing to drop all claims to power of attorney. She is willing to sign a document stating that you are competent and have been competent throughout. She is willing to walk away with the money and nothing else." "And Sarah?" I asked. "What about Sarah?" Patricia hesitated. That was the first time I had seen her hesitate. Sarah is an adult, she said. The law does not give you any claim to her. She has made her choice. What was her choice? I asked, even though I already knew. She has chosen her mother, Patricia said, and her fiancé. She has signed an affidavit stating that she witnessed erratic behavior from you over the past year. It is not likely to hold up in court, but it exists, and it tells you everything you need to know about where she stands. I sat there in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I had made Sarah's birthday cakes, where I had taught her to make pancakes, where I had sat with her when she was 16 and crying because a boy had broken her heart. I told her then that love was hard, that people let you down, that the only person you could really count on was yourself and your family. Your family. The people who share your blood and your history and your name. She had just signed a piece of paper saying I was erratic, saying I was unstable, saying I was not to be trusted. She had signed it for Derek, for her mother, for a share of a house she had never paid a mortgage on, a house she had visited maybe 40 times in her adult life. I signed the settlement. I had no choice. Janice got her half. I kept the house. I kept my truck. I kept my tools and my mother's china and the oak tree and the bird feeder I finally remembered to fill. Janice moved into an apartment in Richmond, close to Sarah and Derek, close to her new life, the life she had been building while I was making gravy and basting turkeys and believing that love was enough. The divorce was final in March. 43 years ended with a judge's signature and a rubber stamp. I did not go to the hearing. Patricia went for me. She said Janice cried. She said Derek sat in the back row with his arms crossed. She said Sarah was not there. That was almost 8 months ago. I am writing this now in my kitchen, the same kitchen. The sun is coming through the window above the sink. The bird feeder is full. The oak tree is bare again. It is almost Thanksgiving again. I will be alone this year. I will make a turkey. I will make the pies. I will set the table with the gold leaf china and the white tablecloth with the wine stain. I will light the candles, and I will sit at the head of the table, alone.
My brother Tom is coming. He said he would drive down from Ohio. He said we would drink too much whiskey and watch football and not talk about any of it. But we will talk about it, because that is what brothers do. They sit in the quiet and let the words come when they are ready. I still have not spoken to Sarah. She sent me a text on my birthday in July. It said, "Happy birthday, Daddy." 3 words. No heart emoji, no phone call, no visit. Just 3 words on a screen. I did not reply. I could not think of anything to say that would not break what little was left of me. Janice called once, in September. She wanted to know if I was okay. She said she was worried about me. She said she hoped I was eating well and taking my blood pressure medicine. I listened to her voice. The voice I had woken up to for 43 years. The voice that said I love you every night before we turned off the lights. The voice that lied. I said I was fine. I said I did not need her to worry. I said goodbye and hung up. I have not heard from her since. Derek is out there somewhere, living in my daughter's life, sleeping in my daughter's bed, eating at my daughter's table, calling himself her family. And maybe he is. Maybe he earned a place I never really had. Maybe I was just a means to an end. A wallet, a babysitter, a man who worked too hard and loved too blindly and believed that if you gave enough, you would get enough back. I was wrong.
The thing about betrayal is that it does not come from your enemies. Your enemies you expect. Your enemies you prepare for. Betrayal comes from the people you would die for. The people you did die for. Slowly, day by day, year by year. You die a little each time you give and they take. Each time you love and they use. Each time you believe and they lie. I am 72 years old now. I have a house. I have a truck. I have a brother who drives 6 hours to eat turkey with me. I have a bird feeder and an oak tree and a stack of gold leaf plates that nobody will inherit, because the only person who would have inherited them is the same person who signed a paper saying her father was erratic, saying her father was unstable, saying her father had not earned his place. I still wear my apron sometimes, the one that says "World's Best Dad."
I wear it when I cook for myself, when I make pancakes on Sunday morning, when I fry eggs and burn toast and eat standing at the counter because the table feels too big. I look at those words and I wonder if I was ever that man, the best dad, the man who could do no wrong, the man who was the center of his little girl's world. Maybe I was. Maybe I was for a while, before life got complicated, before money got involved, before Derek showed up with his suits and his leather gloves and his words that cut like knives. Not earned your place. Those words will follow me to my grave. They will be the last thing I hear when I close my eyes for the final time. Not a prayer, not a memory of love. Just those 5 words from a man who never earned anything in his life. I do not know what will happen next Thanksgiving, or the one after that. I do not know if Sarah will ever come back. I do not know if Janice will ever regret what she did. I do not know if Derek will get what is coming to him. Life does not give you those answers. Life just keeps moving. The sun rises. The sun sets. The bird feeder empties, and you fill it again. I am sitting here in my kitchen. The coffee is cold. The sun is higher now. I can hear the neighborhood waking up. Dogs barking. Cars starting. A lawnmower somewhere in the distance. Life going on. The same life that forgot me. The same life that moved on without me. I think about that Thanksgiving dinner. The candles. The china. The turkey I made with my own hands. The family I thought I had. And I realize something that I will carry with me until the day I die. I did earn my place. I earned it 1,000 times over. I earned it with every shift I worked, every bill I paid, every tear I wiped, every nightmare I soothed, every graduation, every birthday, every Christmas morning when I stayed up all night putting toys together. I earned my place at that table and at every table before it and at every table that will ever come after it. The tragedy is not that I did not earn my place. The tragedy is that they convinced me for one terrible moment that I had not. The coffee maker is beeping. It is time to make a fresh pot. I will pour a cup. I will stand at the window. I will watch the birds at the feeder. I will wait for my brother to call and tell me what time he is leaving Ohio. And I will keep going, because that is what I do. That is who I am. The man who keeps going, even when everyone he loved has already gone. The phone is quiet. It has been quiet for a long time. I do not expect it to ring, but I leave it on the counter anyway, just in case. Just in case she remembers. Just in case she misses me. Just in case a daughter can still find her way back to a father who never stopped loving her. Even now, even after everything. Especially after everything.